Greetings, everyone. This is Payman Lorenzo, your host of the Leader Podcast. Today, for I don't know, probably episode 330. I stopped counting. I am one of my very good friends from the podcast of the last 3 months that we've known each other, and we've done some beautiful conversations, both on and off the record. And yeah, this is going to be our part 4 with this wonderful lady right here from the UK, Debra Blackman, also known as your Mary Poppins of the office. But today we're not going to talk about her business. We all did that last time. Today we're going to talk about something that we just talked briefly earlier. It's very beautiful, and she's going to talk about her own, if I understand you correctly, your own spiritual journey and all that. So let's before we even start about that, tell us, how are you doing today?
Oh, hi, Payman. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. And we just compared, didn't we, what's going on in your part of the world with the weather and what's
Yes.
going on with mine. And it just goes to show to have the perfect balance. You've got all the sunshine and I've got all the rain, but you need both.
They just issued a warning around this region of the world, around Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam, that there is a heat wave, temperatures over 40 degrees Celsius. So quite a few people have had heat stroke. So telling us to stay away, be careful. While you guys are being showered by the typical British,
Yeah,
uh,
lovely grey skies, water, and very soggy. And we have perhaps other perils with nature
mm,
because of flooding. And so that causes its own issues as well. So we always have something, don't we, that we need to be dealing with and observing.
you mentioned you guys had yesterday a glimpse of the spring. And if I
Yeah.
if I had a magic wand, I would send you maybe 10, 15 degrees of, maybe not 15, but 10 degrees from us, between 40 to 30, 10 degrees to you guys. So it could be tolerable
Yeah.
here, but also warmer for you guys.
We'll take the crumbs from your table, don't you worry. We'll be grateful.
I want it to be still warm so I can go to the beach. That's already is a
Yeah.
sweet spot. Awesome. So tell us, Debra, before we start, for people who don't know you, give us a brief summary of who's Debra as a person, as a human being, as a woman.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Gosh, deep question. So I am an evolving spiritual being. I am a truth seeker, and I'm navigating my path
Mm,
with joy, love, and gratitude. And the more that this wonderful journey unfolds, I'm now being able to see with clarity that as an abuse and trauma survivor from childhood, these lessons have been perhaps something which are giving me the wisdom in later life to be the person that I'm gaining greater self-knowledge. But with that, no person is an island. So what I am having within in this reformation, this transformation,
mm,
is actually outwardly having an effect on others without even me trying to do anything, just by my being. People's lives can be improved by
mm,
my mood, by my energy, by my thought processes of what they say to me, how I react. And this is the thing for me with my journey, is that the dried out little husk of a shell of a seed that I was when everything was enclosed and trapped in this darkness and fear-based survival mode that I've been in for the large majority of my life. Now that I'm nurturing that little seed and I'm allowing to get the nutrients and see the sun, albeit in Preston in the UK, just the glimmer of the sun. But that's all it takes, isn't it? It's the glimmer. It's the
sure.
knowing that something else is there to be able to work towards and grow towards and lean towards. And so, yeah, bit of a long answer, but it's every day is a discovery as to who I am, learning about myself.
Mm,
So yeah, I'm a little, perhaps for people in hotter climates with the sands
mm,
that shift and evolve, I am that beautiful fluid state, or trying to be, that actually is being centered and grounded as the person that I am and who I'm becoming.
beautiful. So in order to dive deeper into that, let's go back to the roots. So you're growing up and up to now. Did you grow up in a religious environment? Were you religious or were you not very religious growing up up to now?
Well, the interesting thing is that my parents put me in a Catholic
Mm,
orientated school. I was my first part of my education from say 4.5 until 15 was at a convent school education with nuns. Two different schools, but the same principles.
mm,
And they gave me grounding. I had a very turbulent time at home, not being able to express myself and living in fear most of the time. But that was my normality. So I knew nothing different. But the religious side of it gave me the opportunity to think about better life, perhaps reasoning for suffering.
mm,
But it was on a level which was, as a child, pretty crude and basic, still with a huge capacity of victimization. And
mm.
why me? Because at that tender age, I had no point of comparison. Life was what it was on a daily basis. So, religious wise, it's difficult now that my sands have shifted with regards to religion and spirituality. But at that point, yes, I believed in God, I believed in something higher than myself. But was it firmly rooted and enduring? The answer is no, it wasn't.
Thank you for sharing this. So at what point did you notice a shift slowly going from religion to spirituality? Was that a specific event or was that something more gradual and progressive?
Well, for the large part of my life, I've lived in a void.
Mm,
I've tried to do the right thing, but my ego kept on sabotaging my desire to do the right thing. And that was largely, I look back on the coping mechanisms that I put in place. The fear of being vulnerable, the fear of shame, the recognition of what happened to me, because as children, we believe it's our fault. So there was a deep rooted dislike, hatred of the person that lived within me. So from that angle, it was very difficult to see beautiful things happen from something from within that was so ugly. So I kind of stepped away from the belief system that I had growing up in the convent school because I just couldn't see anything other than pain and anguish happening to me, whether that be loss of relationships on a romantic basis, and in some kinds they were very abusive as well, to loss of jobs because of the relationships that I couldn't hold with the people that I was working with and my bosses. So there was this scarcity and this lack. So I just put it down to the fact that we're here to endure. You just get on with it. Everything's a mess. And that
mm,
one day, hopefully, through death, I won't be around anymore. And I did try and accelerate that a couple of times by thinking to stop the existence that I was living in, which was very traumatic. Obviously, I didn't succeed, which is good because this has led me to the journey where I'm now on. It wasn't until I had the breakdown when I was probably about 54. I was just looking at my notes actually this morning, oddly enough, from what I would take when I was listening to my counselor. And in fact, actually, it's more recent than that. It's about 57. And again, when I was going through that, I couldn't again see the reason. But when I had the epiphany, when I had the out-of-body experience of giving birth to the monster, that's when it all changed. That's when I realized that I was this amazing, wonderful, beautiful human being, and that I had the potential to delve into this further now that I was free of that huge, horrible, evil, ugly weight that I'd carried around with me for ages, well, years, for as long as I can remember. And it's since then, in those, and now I'm almost 60 in October, it's in that short period of time that my acceleration through beliefs, spirituality, when I look back, it's actually been really rapid. But it's right. It's going along at pace, but I'm taking it steadily day by day, and I'm applying the things that I know that intuitively I feel are right. And I know that they're right because of the results that are coming back. And I don't expect it to be easy. And there is a lot to unfold. My ego is still very firmly there, but I have now the knowledge, the key that has unlocked that box to actually look into it without fear of it destroying me, if that makes sense.
Yes, before I even say anything on that, you mentioned that you're born in October. October what?
The 9th.
Oh, wow. I'm October 17.
Oh,
That's amazing.
fellow
My
Libran.
my father was October 10, so wow, amazing.
Oh,
Yeah, we Libras are the best. It's the best sign in the zodiac. I firmly believe
well,
that.
there's a little bit of ego there, isn't there? But I think I agree with you.
Absolutely. Now, one thing, looking back at what you just said, looking back our beautiful conversation of the last 2-3 months, you mentioned the first thing you shared on episode 1 was your encounter with that man that tried to force you to drink, and then you escaped, and then you went to your house, and then you gave birth to this monster. Now, looking, sure, that was a very traumatic and tragic event in your life, but looking at things from a spiritual eye, would you say that this encounter with this man actually did you a favor by allowing you to trigger your birth, your spiritual birth in a way, to really get you on the path of fulfillment in a way that you're meant to be? Because if you look at things from a spiritual path, especially if you look at things from a perspective of soul contract, for example, the people in our lives, whether they do good or bad, we've agreed to have these people and for them to play these roles. So if you look at things from that perspective, sure, from a 3D perspective, it was a very tragic and painful experience for you to go through it. But if you look at it from a more spiritual perspective, you're going through that, him in a way triggering you to go deep inside of yourself, to get rid of this thing inside of you that was killing and eating you alive, and now giving birth to the beautiful you, to helping you finding your purpose, your passion. Would you say that this was a blessing in disguise and this was a beautiful gift for you?
100%. Yes, absolutely. And this now in my journey and my teachings, and I'm immersing myself every day. One of the things is that I work hard. I'm diligent from a commercial perspective and for my team, but I'm devoting far more time to the understanding of this journey and the investment, because nothing happens without investing time and energy. And what I now firmly believe, and I alluded to it at the start of our conversation, is that these things that have happened to me are providing me with the wisdom to be able to see the opportunity that they present. And the greater one suffers, you actually have an exponential amount of reward that is far greater than the suffering. And so the suffering that, and I mean, gosh, others have suffered much worse than me and are still doing so. But that suffering has meant that I've got like almost, you know, to use a commercial phrase, you know, 10x, 100x, 1000x of reward in my path and my level of understanding and my wisdom as that I can apply to myself. One of the things which I'm acutely aware of, we're having these discussions and people are listening, but I'm still a firm believer in, I have had a glimpse, a glimmer of what is out there. I am no guru. I am just a middle-aged, delayed to life lady that is living in the rainy UK who has undergone a transformational and is undergoing a transformational experience. Now, if my words resonate, that's great. If they don't, that's also fine. I'm not about to say I've got the answers, because all I can do is speak from a personal experience, have no qualifications. But as I'm doing the inner work and I'm finding out about the dark side of myself as well as the light, because we need both. We need the rain, we need the sunshine. If I can, if my words are meaningful for somebody out there who perhaps is going through their own issues, haven't discovered things or are about to, all I would say is that there is hope, there is light, there is a way forward from, and this can only be from an individual perspective, but for me, the most traumatic of happenings, of occurrences. And for the large part of my life, I've been under that. So to break free of it and understand that there's a long journey ahead. I'm never going to be, you know, there. I'm never going to be enlightened. That's your journey. But to know the difference now in these brief months and couple of years, it is so different and it is so amazing. And every day, yeah, there are challenges. It isn't a bed of roses. In fact, some things happen and you think, whoa, that was pretty difficult lesson, but I'm taking it with a different mindset now. I'm taking it from the power that I'm growing from within. And I'm leaning into those moments of negativity. I'm understanding that we do have to have the light, the shade, the rain, the sunshine, the good, the bad, and everything else to be able to put the wisdom in place so that we can look at and we can say, yes, this is the right course of action. This intuitively, for me, is the right way to do things. And understand those emotions, because emotions are ego-driven. Understand those emotions for what they are. Nothing more, nothing less, and keep it in the present time. Don't look back, don't project into the future. Take them as they meet you in the present time. And that, with levels of anxiety, has just done an amazing amount to calm my mind, my body, my whole experience. And as such, with this man and this catalyst, of which I've had many catalysts, but they never quite broke the seal, as it were. You know, there's a pudding in Europe, it's called creme brulee, and you've got this, yeah, there's this layer of sugar that you harden off with heat, and then you've got this, and when you crack your fork through that sugar, those plates move and they will never come back in that form again. So once you've had something break that, then you can go underneath and start to find out about what is under the surface. But all the times, it didn't matter how much trauma there was and everything else, the bondage that I placed myself in, and I don't blame myself because it was pretty horrendous, and why would I know something that I didn't know what to do? But once that layer had been broken through, then I can now delve in underneath and start working on what I want underneath. And that is a really, for me, I know it's a simple one and I don't want to denigrate what it is, but once you've broken that seal, once you've broken that barrier, once you've broken that crust, it just can't go back in the same way, because you've got that hole in it and then the light can shine through.
Beautiful. Two questions came to mind while listening to your wonderful path. First one, have you ever pondered how would have your life looked like if you did not have that encounter with that man that triggered your awakening? That's question number one. Question number two is, wait, let's go to question number one. Question number two, I just forget it right now, so it's gonna come back. Let's take it one at a time.
Yeah, okay. So if I hadn't have had that experience, well, the answer is I don't know, because it happened.
Do you ever ponder about that sometimes? Like, for example, let's say you're at night laying in bed or just on your own sitting. Do you ponder what would have my life would have been if that hadn't happened?
Well, there is a definition of insanity, isn't it? That if you keep doing the same things again, you won't have a different result tomorrow. It happened. It happened for a reason. And one thing I would say again is I don't project into the future. I don't know. And not knowing the unknown is a good place to be, because the unknown is now safe. Primevally, when we were running away from saber-toothed tigers and things like that, you know, going out into the unknown was a scary place because we didn't know the dangers. I mean, we could have got eaten. We could have got killed. Tribes could have killed us, what have you. But in our society now, if we're going through into our mind and into our spiritual realm from within, the unknown is a safe place. And I think Einstein said that, you know, we live in a benevolent universe. The inner stillness that we have in ourselves. So before we started this interview, we had I said a phrase, as above, so below, and as below, so above. We have everything within us to emulate what is above in the heavens. We have heaven and hell in ourselves. And I lived in hell for 57 years of my life because I've been abused from before I can remember. So if that is the case, then once we're free of that torment of the ego, every day I'm trying to increase the amount of time that I'm in heaven. The experience of heaven, of joy, of love, of my heart space as it is now, swelling up and giving that energy of just joy, love, and gratitude. That's heaven.
Indeed.
We can have heaven on earth in ourselves. We can live at far greater time frame each time. The more we practice, I'm coming to realize, in that state of joy, gratitude, and love. And that's a wonderful place with which to make decisions, with which to have conversations. I'm a businesswoman, so it's a great place to speak with my team, to plan, to strategize with this feeling. Because as soon as that feeling starts to close in and starts to become protectionist, I know that what we're talking about isn't resonating. And maybe we need to shift a little, or I need to shift a little to get that feeling back in full force.
Beautiful, beautiful. Wow. Second question I want to ask you is this. When did you realize and understood that what happened, what you went through, didn't happen to you, but for you, and it was a gift, it was a blessing in disguise?
Yes. Now you talked about soul contracts, so this might be something slightly different for some people who are listening in. I'm on the same thought process as yourself, in that when we are born, well, at conception, we decide that I won't get too technical, but we decide that we are going to have the experience in life that is going to be our life's purpose. And the quicker we can become aware of what that is and why we are here, the quicker we can understand that the things that are happening to us, we have choices as how we deal with them. And so this whole idea about soul contract, I liken it to the fact that if you come into this world to be a mountaineer, would you be confident and happy when you die to go back where the reckoning is and the judgment and say, yeah, I'm a mountaineer and I managed to climb the hill in my back garden? Well, it's a bit underwhelming, isn't it? So if we then think, well, as a mountaineer, wouldn't you want to climb Mount Everest? Wouldn't you want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro? When you think about what's involved, the effort and the fear and the sacrifice and the understanding that this is not easy. But when you look back at your life at that time and you go, wow, I climbed Mount Everest. I fulfilled my purpose as a mountaineer in this world. I did the difficult. I did the challenging. I am a being that has soared the heights of what I could achieve. So when I look back at this now, yes, would I want that happening in that way? No, of course I wouldn't. But ultimately, the fact that it did, and the fact that it took me a fair old while in my late 50s to understand that actually, you know what, I was here to learn from this. I am here to grow from this. I am here to contribute to others from this experience. And this is the wisdom that I keep referring to. It's that knowledge that I can look at this with equanimity. I can look at this and say, you know what? I'm working towards that time when I look back and I go, yes, I am somebody that worked hard on fulfilling my purpose in life.
Beautiful. Love that. That man that caused this, are you still in touch with him?
No, and there's an interesting practice, and I think it's from the people in the where are they? I think around Maoris, or yeah, I think it's the Maoris, and it's called a Pono. There's this yeah, and I've been looking at that, and it says, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And I've been doing that to all of the people, my parents included, and myself. I say it to myself, to say, how can you love somebody that's abused you? Well, you can love them for the experience and the wisdom that that gave you. I love you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry because of all sorts of different reasons that I didn't take this as the wisdom that I was meant to be getting from it. Not forgiving in the sense of what they did was wrong, but understanding that they were on their own journey and that they have things in life that they need to learn, and they are in their own hell if they keep doing that. So I'm sorry that I didn't realize that, because if I had have realized that, I would have been much quicker to be able to rise above it and understand it, that this wasn't me. this was their journey. It doesn't make it right, but I'm sorry for the fact that I didn't grasp it as it should have been, or it could have been earlier. I forgive you. I forgive you for the same reason that you are on your own journey, that you had your own mental issues, that you had that. So you have, as awful as it was, you go out now into the world, into the afterlife, as my parents are, or the people that have wronged me. So that at least the only person that suffers is the person that doesn't forgive. Because if you can't forgive, you can't love, you can't open up your heart for that true fulfillment. And then thank you. Thank you for the experience, as awful and as horrendous as it was, because I'm learning, and I've learned that now I've transcended it, I can use it for my own betterment, for my own wisdom, and maybe I can help others more through that as well.
Beautiful.
And I do that to myself, to say it to myself as well. I'm sorry all the times I doubted myself. I love myself.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing it. While listening to your wonderful experiences and wisdom, a thought came to mind, and that was one of the most powerful comparisons I ever heard was the difference between life and school. In school, they teach you first, then you learn the lesson, and life is the other way around. You go to the thing, and then you learn the lesson. If you don't, when you look at all our tribulations, all our challenges, heartbreaks, betrayals, abuse, tragedy in life, when we look at what people subjected us to, sure, it hurt a lot, and we wonder, how can they do that? They're supposed to be my family. How can they do that? But then when we look things at a higher perspective from the eye of spiritual and soul contract, then perhaps the pain they subjected us to, the abuse, that was a lesson we came here to learn for. And they were actually our teammates, so to speak, and also our teachers to teach us what we meant to learn. You, for example, Debra, you had to go through a very challenging upbringing of abuse, but that abuse was the training, so to speak, for you to become the lady that you are, the wise, and for you to get the full, to be able to unleash the full gift that you came here for, not only for you to become the person you're meant to be, but then to share them with others so we can all collectively rise. At least that's how I look at things from that. When I look at things from this perspective, even the people that have betrayed me, done some of my greatest realization in life came as a result of betrayals, of people really backstabbing me. Because again, one thing that changed my life was understanding the tremendous power of questions and asking the right question. Before, when something about, I shared that before in another conversation with you, when something bad happened to me before my awakening, I used to ask disempowering questions such as, why me? What did I do to deserve this? Why is life so unfair? Where is God? No, and complain like a little bee. And when you complain like a little bee, nothing good comes out of it. But instead, I learned to ask a more empowering question, such as, what is this trying to teach me? What is a lesson for me to learn to that? Very simple example. A few years ago in China, building a business, I dealt with someone that was very highly respected and viewed in the world of e-commerce. I trusted him. I did a gentleman's agreement, just handshake. I thought that was enough. Didn't have anything in writing. And then because of that, for a very tiny reason, they kicked me out of my own business that I had built myself. And then it was very painful. It took me over a year and a half to overcome this. I went through depression, even suicidal thoughts, because how can you do that? It was my idea, my business. I built this thing, and now they're kicking me for some technicalities. I couldn't comprehend it. And then now, once I started my awakening, then I understood. The very next business I got into with someone, the first thing I did was, hey, I'm honored, but let's put this in writing first. So when I look from this perspective now, I forgave these people, but I don't forget. And I learned a lesson. Now you, Debra, looking back to that perspective, to the perspective of spirituality, hey, what is this trying to teach me? When you look at all the abuse that you were subjected to growing up by your family, sure, it was absolutely horrible going through that as a kid. But now when you look at it, what are your thoughts on they were actually your teachers, they're actually helping you become the person you went to be, the person you chose to become in this lifetime prior to birth? I would love your thoughts on that perspective.
Yeah, so teachers. As we go through school, we had teachers who are the nice, kind ones, and we have the teachers that hold us to task, that we dread going into their classes because we know that they're going to give us the maths question that really is going to stretch our mind and we feel uncomfortable. Now, out of all of my teachers, I've forgotten the ones that were the nice teachers. I remember there was Sister Rosario, the maths teacher, and I remember her. And interestingly enough, I went into a career in finance. She pushed me in uncomfortable ways. She pushed my anxiety button. She pushed all sorts of ways in which I thought, I don't like this. But actually, I look back on her and I think, you know what? I grew as a person, as a kid, under her very strict regime. And then I've had wonderful teachers that have been very creative in my life. There was a Mrs. Petrushko in the art class, and she encouraged my creativity, which was terribly important for me as a kid with an abusive background, in that I could create and draw and get my feelings out on paper and in paint, etc., which was really important. So teachers come in all various guises, and the ones which, as we perceive them, have done us harm, they provide us sometimes with the life lessons that we need to be able to then think, right, okay, I'm never doing that again. Or the next time I do this, this is the first thing I'm going to do. And that's important, because without those, you could have gone into another business, 5 times as much at stake, ended up losing all of that. But the other way to look at this, and this whole thing about scarcity and lack and loss, you know, we have, again, a board game, it's called Snakes and Ladders in the UK, where you take ages to climb up the ladder. In about 2 moves, you can be whizzing down the board on the snake again, you know? And you know what? It is kind of like a game. But we must always just look at those and go, okay, this happened. Lean into it. Why am I being triggered? What is triggering me to feel the way that I do about something? And if we can overcome that and become dispassionate about it, then we're not going to cloud the next move with the same judgment, because trust is a big thing. Being able to trust in ourselves first to make the right decision initially. So my question to you would be, if you look back now on your path and your understanding of yourself, and this person were to present themselves, would you have been taken in again? Would you have been more mindful now of thinking, right, I need to put mechanisms in place to be able to be due diligence, etc.? Would you have actually, with what you know now, had that situation arise? And often we are there, our worlds collide because we need to learn the lesson. And that person would not have collided with you in the way that they did. You wouldn't have never met them. Mm-hmm. If you'd have got that lesson already sorted, they probably would have never have come into your life in the first place. And that's the law of attraction, isn't it? You know, birds of a feather and all of that. It's the circumstances that I know now, the people that are coming into my life now, like yourself, Payman, are caring, loving, understanding of themselves and of others, largely non-judgmental. I can never go into somebody's psyche, I don't know for sure, but they all seem to be resonating on a similar vibratory frequency, if that makes sense, and we gel.
Absolutely.
A few years ago, we probably wouldn't even have met, because we wouldn't be on that same vibratory frequency. So we have a responsibility to be the best at all times and ever evolving versions of ourselves, so that the people, the circumstances, the things that come into our life are going to be beneficial and nurturing. And then when things come, because they do, as tests, we have already the resilience, we already have the mechanism in place, without judgment, without hurt, without feeling of self-protection. We just know we do the right thing. Does
Love
that
that.
make sense?
Oh,
I don't know if that makes sense.
big time. Indeed. Very beautifully said. Very beautiful. I agree completely with you. Completely, because just like you said, you meet the people you meet each time at the right time. I was having this conversation with someone last week and we're talking about, oh, I met this person, the right person at the wrong time. I said, no, there's never a wrong time. It's the right time. Maybe it's not the right time right now to start anything meaningful, but at least you can plant the seed for something better later on. So, just like you mentioned, if we had met, say, 5, 10 years ago, we'd have repulsed each other. We were completely different places, both of us, and we wouldn't have, we wouldn't have been able to connect such a deep level that we are doing now, because again, now we're the same page, same frequency, same vibration. One comment that you mentioned earlier that I found very beautiful, actually took note of it, is a quote by Albert Einstein. You mentioned the unknown is safe. And I found that incredibly liberating. Imagine if everybody were to embrace this thought, this principle. Imagine what they could achieve. Hey, it's okay, go. It's basically a license to go wild and realize all your dreams, to go and take the risk, take that chance, make that move. That's it. That's very beautiful. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Einstein was, we live in a benevolent universe.
Yes.
But as it is, if you're out there in the universe, that's kind of like the unknown, isn't it? So the whole thing is equilibrium, balance, drumming down of the ego as much as possible, and understanding intuitively what is right for us, what will nurture us, nourish us, and help us to flourish and to thrive. And by doing so, just by our being in that way, helps others as well. So the responsibility that we have in creating within the unknown, this is where transformation happens. The unknown is where transformation happens. Because guess what? I gave birth to that monster, and then there was a period of unknown because the monster's gone. Oh, wow. Well, I'm not in this space before. I've never experienced this thing before. And it's being relaxed and comfortable and allowing our own divinity, the higher self, which was always meant to be until, we became clouded with ego and the things in the world and the material side of things, is to create that beauty. And then synchronicity happens. People like we did, we met each other through somebody else. I could never have planned that. People talk about, have you got your 5-year plan written out? Have you? And I'm like, I haven't even got the rest of my afternoon planned out. You never know where those coincidental moments will happen. And they come from left field. You can't predict them. And to try would, again, be manifesting the wrong thing, because who are we? The universe gives us what we need at the time we need it, and within the frequency of which we're vibrating. And if we are in that frequency and we are living embodiment of the unknown, and the unknown is the present, we can project a known thing into the future. We can look at the past having been. The unknown is the present. And if we can have clarity of mind in the nanoseconds of time, but universal time is very different to our thought processes about time anyway. So if we just know from moment to moment and keep present, because half the time we live our lives in a dream state. We're kind of sleeping through it. I've driven whole journeys where I've got in the car and I forget that I was on the road until I reach my destination. And you think, oh my goodness, I've had complete
Pilot.
blank. Yeah, autopilot. And we live a large part of our lives in autopilot, because if you make a little decision to go, you know what, each time I've kind of drifted off, I'm going to bring myself present. You do it literally like all the time. You have to keep on going, come present, come on, come on, come on. And it's having that clarity that you're there of the moment. And that's when beautiful things happen. Because if you can keep a clear head, that's why I'm doing now meditation. I'm doing it morning and evening, is to try and keep that clear headspace. Not be thinking, oh, I've got to put the washing on, or I've got to take the dog out, or I've got to do the presentation, or I've got to ring my team, or I've got no. Keep the mind clear and go from one thing to another without it manifesting in your brain, or you see a vision of it, or what have you, or you're thinking about it before you do it. Trying to stay in the moment. And one of the biggest things that I've learned is when I first started to meditate, within the first nanosecond of me saying I'm meditating, boom, my brain went, it just went crazy with all these thoughts and da 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 da. And now I can get it so that within about 5-10 minutes of relaxation, of breathing techniques, I can calm my mind. But that's taken a good couple of months to get there. So goodness knows my brain was busy. And it's trying to get that white noise out of your head and let those things then that are going to come in for your benefit. Because if your brain is full, how can something come in? It can't. You've got to be thinking about things from the neck down as opposed to the neck up.
Indeed. Wow. Beautiful. Beautiful. Do you have any tips for someone who's looking like maybe they're lost, they don't know what is the purpose, the mission? How can they find theirs?
Well, I found mine through a catalyst, an event. But I'd say if you think back to when you were a child, what was it when you were a child that you loved to do? Was it playing with your friends? Was it dancing? Was it making things? Now, as children, we don't have any preconceptions of life. We haven't had a past, have we? So we're intrinsically drawn to the things which give us the self-fulfillment, because we all know how quickly children want things or attention. So if it can engross a child, those activities, that means that that child is deeply into that activity. So if you can think about what you loved doing as a child and start to incorporate it in part of your day, chance to play, chance to speak with people, act or create or dance or what have you. And then through that, often we find where we can think, right, if I do more of this. I always wanted to be a horse riding instructor as a kid, but interestingly enough, it was the instructor, it was the teaching element, it was the how do I help people get better at something, right? So interestingly enough, now I use that for my team. I use that for my clients. I use that when I'm doing these discussions. So actually, I'm fulfilling that purpose as a child, albeit in a different state, because that intrinsically was something that I enjoyed, helping other people to do something so that they could get better at it. And there could be a myriad of different things that now in our lives as adults, but we've cut that flow off because it hasn't been possible, or we haven't kept it in our lives. I don't know if that makes sense, but the inner child is a really good place to go as children. Think about the child that you love, what you love doing, and try and
Indeed,
incorporate something.
the inner child is basically, from my understanding, as our essence of life. One of the things that I learned is keep that inner child alive for as long as you can, even when you're 95,000 years old, because the moment you silence, or God forbid, kill that inner child, you might as well just lay down and just go 6 feet under, because that's your life. That's your, at least from my understanding, that inner child is anything, because we all at any age, we all want to have fun, to play, to entertain, to laugh, to joke, and things like that, and to learn through playing. Doesn't matter whether you're 5 years old, or 65, or 85. We all want to have a good time and learning while having a good time. So that's something that needs to be preserved at all costs, at least from my understanding.
Well, the inner child as well, if we can imagine the awe, the simple things, going to the beach, and I used to make sand castles, my bucket and spade, and the simple things, what you delight in as a child,
Mm,
looking at the little flowers and making daisy chains, and looking at ladybirds and having them on your hand and looking at them on your palm of your hand walking around. And the other thing is nature. If we can get out into nature, or if you live in a city, to have some pot plants, something where you can see things growing and thriving, or if you have a park, to go out. Or even if you can't do that and you live in an apartment block, go out and breathe in the air. Even if you open a window and breathe the air in from outside, because nature is so important to us. It's primeval. It
mhm.
really is. And if we can get nature and the wonderment that we had as kids, do you remember? I mean, I've lived in the UK, so we had falling leaves, and at autumn time, you'd run around and play in the leaves and build them up and jump on the big pile of leaves. If you have snow, lay down and make a snow angel, or have a snowball fight, or whatever it is, to bring that magicalness back. But being outside, even if it's raining, obviously, you're protected with it, or if you want to stand out and it's warm, to get wet with the rain, that's a great experience. Is just to understand that nature, our planet, Gaia is another word for earth in the Greek term. It's that life force, it's that energy, it's that understanding the miracle of nature, looking at the bud forming on a
Mm.
twig, looking at the little seedlings growing, looking at flowers in their beautiful scent and colors and forms, etc. And marveling in the simple can be hugely therapeutic when we live in chaotic, really busy, demanding lives. Is
Mm.
just to get time to stand still for just a little bit, so that we can de-busy our heads and look at something that's simple and take delight in it.
Beautifully said. Love that. Listen, Deborah, love our conversation. Very beautiful. Um, if someone wants to connect with you, what's the best way to do so?
Yeah, I have an email address, and it's DB for Debra Blackman at Vsentia, that's VIESSENTIALLY.com. Please do drop me an email. I'm on LinkedIn as well. You can find me under Debra Blackman. You'll see the logo there with Mary Poppins on it. You'll know you've got to the right place. But yeah, please do be in touch if you'd like. Be really happy to receive your messages.
Awesome. Awesome. Love that. Listen, I salute you. You're treated with a heart. Keep shining your light. Keep blessing the world. Your presence, your impact, your smile, and everything you do. Keep blessing the world with your gifts. You're truly with a heart. Stay safe. Stay awesome. God bless you. And Talk to you soon for our next chapter of our beautiful ongoing conversation. As we say back home in Canada, have a fantabulous day and rest of the week, and talk to you very soon. Take care.
Oh, thank you, Payman. Thank you. Bye now.
You're welcome. Cheers.